Good evening, North Hudson, and welcome to the Public Safety Meeting, Thursday, August 7th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. I'd like to do a roll call quick. So we have Trustee Porter.
Here.
Trustee Olson's not here, and then Trustee Keller is here. Next one we have is comments from the floor. We do not have anybody here. Don't blame them. Another glorious, warm day today. Number 4, minutes to be approved.
Do I need to motion that?
Yep.
I move to approve the minutes from last week's meeting.
Okay, I will second those. Any discussion about them? I know we had to do a quick adjustment.
Yeah, I just ended up having them correct my name.
Okay.
I haven't been Potter since I was my third grade teacher.
All right. So basically, if all approve of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it's unanimous. Next, Chief, what do you have for us?
So a couple of items under old business, and then I thought of something after I submitted this to you that I do have on our new item or new business. But for the old business, we did sell through the auction site our retired squad. We received $4,000 for that, which that money will then be put into the fund for purchase of future squads. And we did turn over possession of that vehicle week and a half ago, Saturday, to the purchaser from the auction site. So it is no longer in our possession, and it's off to a new owner. Last time I talked a little bit under the police department capital equipment planning about the hostile vehicle barriers that we were kind of looking into. I did meet with Stillwater PD staff, their captain and detective sergeant, and physically went over to look at them and to see how they functioned and those types of things. They have approved us to use their barriers during this year's Pepperfest parade to hit a couple of areas that we felt are potential soft spots that we want to get some, and it'll give us an opportunity for Public Works to move them around and see how quick we can do things. And so it'll be a good test for us before we expense any money on it. They did say, if they had something going on, we wouldn't be able to use those, but because they don't have anything in the month of August, at least this year, we're able to use them. I did reach out to the Sheriff's Department, and I've talked actually to the Chief of the Hudson Police Department about, what it would look like if we could possibly get some funding or some grants in this area. There was a grant that Captain Kufis was looking at. I found out in between the time that I submitted this and today that the grant that they were looking at this item would not be, could not be part of that grant. It didn't fit within the parameters of what the monies could be used for. So we'll still continue to look to see if there's any other options out there, but it does sound like we might be able to get a coalition of people or agencies that might be able to put in some funding for it. I will be talking in a couple of weeks. We have the St. Croix County Chiefs meeting where all the chiefs and the sheriff come together. I have it listed on the agenda to talk about this and see if there's other interest with other communities as well. So probably, I would say definitely nothing that's going to happen 2025 as far as any purchases, but kind of again looking forward. But wanted to make you aware that that there are other communities that are showing interest, and so we'll move forward as we can. They're not cheap by any means. Yeah. I think the quote I got for 54 of their single units, they usually connect in threes, and that's how you move them around, and then you can connect them as long as you want to. Right now, the quote for the trailer that they come in and the units is around $96,000. So Stillwater PD had a $200,000 grant that they used to purchase theirs, so they got the trailer, 21 additional units that they captain said that for like lumberjack days, it takes about 45 minutes, 6 people, 45 minutes to put up all of the blockades along the parade route for their city.
That's all.
We obviously don't have that many spaces that we would need to cover like they do. So they really said 2 people, kind of in the right number of barriers can move it around fairly quickly, at least get it to the curb so that it opens up the roadway. So we'll test that out during this year's Pepperfest. We have a couple of areas that we're going to utilize them in, and I will report back on what we find.
That's good.
Awesome.
Very good.
And then under new business, like I mentioned that I did not put on this particular sheet, I did work with Rich Stewart with the First State Bank and Trust, the Hudson YMCA, and the Hudson Senior Center, and I did a presentation, an hour-long presentation with Rich Stewart yesterday to about 43 participants at the Hudson YMCA on elder scams and how to, just educating them on elder scams and how to try to prevent them from becoming victims of those types of scams. I think it went really, really well. Tuesday, we were notified that the River Channel was looking to try to record that event, and so once that, which they did, and so once that comes out, I'll share the link, and that way people can hopefully get the information out in a wider swath. And I think it's not only embarrassed. Obviously, they've lost sometimes quite a bit of money, and so hopefully family members can kind of help out with, you know, if it's a romance scam where they're sending money overseas or something, thinking that someone's going to come and visit them, you know, maybe the families could step in and say, you know, can we really take a look at if this person's real or if it's, you know, a 19-year-old kid sitting at their computer just taking your money.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good turnout. Lots of great questions from the audience. Rich Stewart from the First State Bank and Trust, which is the bank that there's one in Bayport, and then the new one that's out on what is it, Cooley, or no, Carmichael and Vine. Did a great job of kind of bringing the bank perspective, because really, as we talked about, the bank kind of can be the first line of, well, the first line of defense are the people. The second line of defense is when you go to the bank to pull out $10,000 and they're asking you questions and whether or not you're honest with them. And then we typically get it after the fact when the crime's already occurred and they've already lost money. So it's nice to have that, you know, there's another level that we can hopefully catch these people or stop them from expending money. So that, again, I'll bring out the link once I get it from River Channel and post that either on our website or on a Facebook page or somewhere so that we can get it out.
That's good.
The incident breakdown, there's nothing really, again, unique or out of the ordinary on that. We've got, because it's the 6th month of the year, or we're through the 6th month of the year, you've got your quarterly overtime expenses. We're on track and under budget on that. And then the written verbal warning and citation tallies by officers. I went out one afternoon and had a productive, I made 4 traffic stops in an hour on 3 speed warnings, as well as 1 failure to stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk. So there's activity out there. It's just a matter of picking the right times and finding the right things. So
Were they in the same area or different areas?
yeah, I sat in the same spot. Yeah, I was in the 600 block of 6th Street North, and right at the north end there's a resident that allows us to utilize their driveway, and so I had some pretty good luck right at the transition. And a lot of them were actually northbound, so they'd been in the 25 since what, Cooley? Cooley.
Yep.
And so I don't know if they were just kind of getting ready to get out of town or whatnot, but we still have people that are on the driveway complain. Not in a negative way, but just complain about the fact that people are moving pretty fast through there.
Yeah.
So wanted to make sure that we tried to give some additional attention there.
And I mean, I know that some people will probably bring this up, but I mean, if you have the permission from the homeowner, you can sit in that spot. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Because I know people will be like, well, you can't do stuff like that, but it's not, just so people know, if there's
Yeah.
permission, you can definitely do that.
There's a lot of things, you know, over the years that I've heard, like we can't sit in the dark without our running lights
Yep.
on, or, you know, all the different things. And none of those, I shouldn't say none. Most of those things are not true. It's just somebody trying to make sure that they see us when they come through town instead of just going to speed limit.
Yeah, it's just educating people a little bit more about, once again, like there's myths and stuff like that out there that
Absolutely.
aren't true.
Thus ends the chief's report, the police chief's report.
Excellent. Chief Spielman could not make it tonight due to scheduling conflict with the Hudson public safety meeting that they have. He did send our incident report to us, just looking at a few things. Looks like they had 63 total calls in general. Nothing out of the ordinary. It looks like our dispatch to route is sitting at the same as well. So doesn't look like too much to be reporting on that end of everything. So it looks pretty standard for the month of July in that area. Number 7, I know we had addition of the first responders for emergency response in the village. Discussion only. Chief, do we have any update or anything to bring to the table on that one right now?
Yeah, so I met with the village administrator to discuss. She was kind of curious on whether or not there needed to be a request for proposal, you know, a formal request that was put out. She spoke with the village attorney, and it turns out that there doesn't need to be anything that formalized. But I guess as far as the committee is concerned, how would you like those invitations to go out to, potential interested parties? And I guess then B would be, is there any specific information that you all definitely want to hear from any of the groups? Is it expected response time? Is it the number of people that they would have available? Is it cost? Which maybe it's all of the above.
Yeah.
But, are there any specific things that when we do make the invite, that we can say, please make sure that you provide, that you can provide more, but at least provide these items? I don't know if there's anything you can think
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, we should probably come up with some bullet points there.
That's it's a good call of like we should have a good invitation with questions right away so they can be prepared and help us out on that side of everything.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have to get together and right. Oh, I suppose.
But yes, because the two of you can't talk about it because that's a quorum.
Yeah, it's a quorum.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I suppose a few things would be wondering how many people would be live in times that they would be available. Cost, obviously, that you brought up there as well.
Yeah, and how's it coordinated from a call standpoint?
Okay.
What do they look or anticipate there, or any type of bugs?
Okay.
And if there's any conflict of interest or any conflicts with anything else that's in the area, which I know we've discussed before, but I mean, I would like to hear from their side of their point of view of everything.
Yeah, like do they see any issues or potential roadblocks or things that would have to be worked out for it to function the way that everybody would want it to function?
Okay.
And I guess what they're able to do and what they're not able to do specifically.
Yeah,
I mean, I know we kind of ran through. I mean, I know they're pretty limited to.
they are, but I think I don't know now if it was an executive order from our president. I heard something on the news, or if it was just statewide, but I thought it was more than statewide. Something about first responders, or maybe it's a law that's in the works. That first responders have access to Narcan. That they're going to be allowed to do more, like whether it's the fire department. There's some legislation.
I'm not aware of it. I don't necessarily follow the federal level because a lot of times there's a lot of trickle down through the state. And so,
Yep.
Yeah, but I think it had something to do with Narcan because the subject was fentanyl, and yeah, in fact.
So the way I have it listed on here, and I kind of wrote it down as you all were talking, but it's basically licensing because that would restrict what they can and can't do. So that's maybe more of a general. The other piece that I guess I would recommend is what equipment they have and what equipment they might need to still purchase, as far as if it's on a truck, if it's with a personal, they assign it to each member, those kind of things. So we'll see if we can get some information on that.
And I suppose grants as well. I mean, just knowing I suppose they wouldn't know, but I mean, if they've received grant stuff like that or.
Okay. All right, and then I'll leave it up to, like I said, if they want to present additional information, I just kind of want to see what you wanted for a floor, and then they can go up from there.
Yeah.
I think that's a good start to the list, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Chief, out of curiosity, I forget, do you guys, does our officers or in the squad, is there a defibrillator?
Yes.
Okay, good,
Yep, we have an AED in all of our squads.
good.
Yep.
Any more discussion about first responders? Then we'll move on to number 8. We have the Galahad Road North permanent prohibited parking on one side discussion and possible action. I know that we brought this up before.
Yeah. What I'd like to do, I've got some questions, but reading the notes, I'd like to clarify myself. One of the, and then also the possible action, I screwed up and I forgot that we moved this meeting up to today to accommodate Pepperfest.
Yep.
But anyway, I've talked to one neighbor. I would like to talk to the other neighbors on the east side, just to get their opinion. But one of the things that that concerned me when this first came up was when that survey came out, we got it in the mail like everybody else in Galahad. And I forgot, but my wife got a hold of Brian Pike and said, Brian, what's going on here? There's 3 times the number of people living on the other side. This is, it's not like it, you could technically call it democratic, but it's, what I would say is it's biased. It's because who wants people to park in their front lawn? Nobody does. There's even somebody on the 300 block of Galahad, on the west side, that's put up their own please no parking signs. And
That was put up by the vendors that they have doing work for them. So
Oh.
that they can turn trucks in their driveway. They're not always there.
they're not always there. Okay, they've just been there for the last couple weeks. Okay, that makes
they're
sense.
building a new house, so it's probably going to.
Yeah. So anyway, nobody wants that. So that survey, if that's the only reasoning or justification, I'd like to explore some deeper things than that because, like I said, it's a guarantee. That survey was guaranteed to give the results that it did. We ended up not even returning ours because there are 10 houses from 2nd Street up to Summers on the west side, and there's probably 30 on the east side.
Wisconsin Street, you mean?
Yes, what did I say?
Second.
No, okay, from Wisconsin to 2nd Street, that's where it's on the other, that's where the east side is basically all along the old train buildings, whatever we call that.
So I think you're referencing 3rd Avenue North.
Okay,
which
3rd
is the
Avenue
street
North.
that goes to Browns Beach. Is that the one you're referencing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd have to look at the map.
That's 3rd Avenue North.
Anyway, from that area up, that's where you start to see houses appear
Both
on the
sides.
east side, yeah, and there's like 10 of them. 11 if you count the one that's across from Ferry's Landing, but they're kind of out of the mix. The one neighbor that I did talk to did share a concern that the number one concern was, well, am I going to get people parking in my yard now? Because of course on Galahad, it's different. If somebody parks in the street in front of your house, like the utility trucks that I mentioned before, well, they're just parked in front of your house. But if they're going to pull over into your yard, that was a concern. That's what I'd like to talk to other people about. Because if that is a concern, that's where I'd like to talk about some alternatives. You'd possibly one side of the street, one day the other side. That's certainly just, but I don't know. That's probably, a lot of people would have to learn things to.
We would not be able to do that in that
Yeah.
location because we would have to sign it. There's no way that
Yeah.
a person from out of town would be able to know about that. So we would still have to put up signage, but now we're gonna have to put up signage on both sides of the street so that people would understand.
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
So I get that, and I don't
I guess,
know.
I get to your point, and I understand your reasoning, but realize that the people on the south end, you're right. I think they would say they would want it parked on the other side because there are no homes on that side. So for
Right.
60% of Galahad Road North, there's no homes on the east side, which would make it better for parking in those locations.
Yes.
But again, it was a recommendation, a thought to try to save staff time. So
and
it's
that's
not just about the survey.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's more to it than just that.
Yeah, I
And
think the
so-
survey wasn't the best way to get at that, but
Well, I can tell you that that's the only way we're going to get people to give their opinion. You can invite people to a meeting all day long, and this is how many people show up.
right. Would it be possible to also put no parking signs from, on the side of the street where houses are on the east side?
All of those things are possible. You as a board are going to have to make that
Yeah.
decision, but
Okay.
then realize that there will be zero parking on Galahad Road North. So then if you have a gathering, everyone's in your driveway, they won't be able to park on the street,
Right,
on either side.
right. And people need to realize that. And we don't have the long driveways like they do on the other side of the
Yeah.
street.
Right.
So, but what I'd like to do is I want to talk to the other 8 neighbors on that side of the street and just get what they have to say. Because if they're all don't care, or just, they don't mind, then, that's that.
And I mean, this is still just, we're still in discussion
Yeah.
of this. So I mean,
Oh, and Chief, thanks,
Yeah.
excuse me. So, I think you'd also mentioned, this is what I also wanted to ask. Why is it important to even put those signs up in the first place? I know, I think you mentioned it averages about 6 a year. I've only been there for 3 years, and we've had 2 or maybe 3 this year. The year's not over. Last year, I think it was about 2 or 3. And
Yeah, I think last year we may have had 4 because there were several graduating seniors that were along there that had grad parties. I believe it was an election year, so we had one election party, and then I believe there was a wedding or a baby shower. I can't remember which one it was that they had asked us to put those up. So
Yeah.
again, like I explained last month, is Galahad is so narrow
Yep.
that if you park vehicles on both sides, you've now gone down to basically 1 lane, and if it's an emergency vehicle,
Yeah.
there's the likelihood of getting a wide ambulance or a fire truck through there is quite limited. And so that's why it's much easier if you just have on the one side, because then they can utilize that whole, 3/4 of the lane of traffic to be able to, and even now, if you have 2 vehicles coming at each other, you take up the entire street. I mean, it
Right.
Yeah.
gets
Oh, yeah.
pretty close, so.
When all the telephone pole work that's being done, utilities, I mean, those trucks were very good. They parked on the edge of the street. They didn't pull into the yards, but they parked on the edge of the street. And yeah, now it's a 1-lane road. And there's no way to get around that because that work needs to be done.
Right.
But, I personally, which doesn't mean, of course, that you've seen it, is that there's our people that don't think, but on a road that narrow, if you park right across from somebody and you're blocking the road, I mean, does that really happen a lot? Can it be ticketed? That's not called
It's
double
legal.
parking.
And so
That's why
to
we're
your
trying to-
point,
yeah.
it's legal, and we can't, if somebody parks kittywampus or they park a little bit further out, it's not illegal. So that's why we're trying to get an area where we can say, you can't park here, and it leaves plenty of room through there.
On the other
So,
side.
Again, you have to be a little bit careful about, and this is my opinion, you have to be careful about thinking about you and thinking about the rest of the community who probably doesn't necessarily do things as smart as you do or as logical as you
Sometimes
do.
I do things smart.
Because that's the people that we deal with.
Yes,
90%
yes.
of the time. So I know you want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but you have to think of community versus individual and how we can try to make it
right,
safer. So-
right. I mean, I've seen plenty of examples of people just not using common sense. You'd think somebody would avoid parking in a way that they block the road, but
yeah. Maybe add this on to next month.
September?
Give it, yeah.
because at the same time, I do. Get back to is. I guess that's where you guys put the signs up because somebody. I mean, I don't know how long this has gone on, but when people aren't having those events, it's as it is right now, and in the time that I've lived there, I've not really seen problems with it. I'm just wondering if it's truly necessary. Is there a concern that, well, is it more than just people putting in the signs and taking them out? I'm all for saving labor or time for our village employees for sure. But is there more behind it than just that you're aware of?
I think that's the majority of it because when people have large gatherings, then it gives some direction to them. Because when there aren't gatherings, typically no one parks on the street. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
other than vendors, like I said, if it's a lawn mowing company, maybe they put their truck and trailer on one side of the street or the other. Those people, hopefully, we can work with to offset, like you mentioned. So if there's 2 different companies working neighboring properties, hopefully they're smart enough to do that. And if it's not, that's something we can recommend to them, but I can't take it, I
Yeah,
can't tow,
yeah.
I can't do that. But
Yeah, or park in the people's driveway of whom grass they're cutting. I saw that today, right next door to Suzanne. I think
Again, I can't force them to do that, though.
Yeah.
That's,
you can't force
that's,
them.
no, it's a public street, they can park on a public street, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's
So
move it. Let's
we
move
can
it
move
to
it to next month.
Yeah, move it to next month, and I think we'll probably have possible action then. All right. Number 9, the prohibited parking in front of mailboxes, discussion and possible action.
So I provided you with the one ordinance in the entire, in all of St. Croix County. The city of Hudson is the only community that I was able to find an ordinance in their online ordinances that prohibits parking in front of mailboxes. And I think the language in the city of Hudson is pretty straightforward. And so oftentimes when I look at ordinances from other agencies or other municipalities, I try to determine whether or not it's, you know, easily enforceable, or if there's going to be some hiccups in people's arguments of why they should be able to park where they are and those types of things. And I think this one, you know, basically within 10 feet of either side of a United States mailbox for the period of Monday through Saturday. This applies to all U.S. mail receptacles, including neighborhood delivery and collection box units, which we do have several in the village, which are, you know, a large box that's maybe 10 units all in one. There's some on Galahad, there's some on 4th Street North, so I think that's a good way to describe that. So if this is something that the village or the committee wants to move forward to the board, I like that language. I think it's enforceable. If not, I don't have other examples from St. Croix County, but I could definitely look through more statewide or, you know, regional to see if there's any other language that might be more appropriate.
And how often are we getting complaints about this?
Well, part of the problem is the police department doesn't always get them, and so I guess I didn't reach out to the administrative side to find out from them, because a lot of people come in and talk to them about that. But from the police department side, it ebbs and flows. There can be some times where there's, like, it goes months before we hear from somebody, but it's usually when something happens that we get lots of complaints.
Yep.
Like, we had the one on St. Croix Street North where the gentleman, and we've gotten the trailer parking situation figured out from last board meeting, but would park there all day long, and then the woman wouldn't get her mail. He would leave with his trailer in the evening, come back in the morning, work on the house that he owned all day long, and so 4 days went by and she never got her mail, and I had to enforce the trailer parking, not any postal or post box parking, because we don't have an ordinance that prohibits that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of areas in the village because of like apartment buildings and whatnot, where the curb has been painted yellow in front of some of those, just because of the volume of, you know, off-street parking or on-street parking that's needed. But beyond that, it's all been just, you know, trying to work with neighbors to be neighborly. So,
Right.
To your point again, are we doing it because there's a major problem throughout the village? Not necessarily.
No.
You know, we worked with one of the people that live right next to the elementary school, because with all the construction workers, they were blocking and so we put up no parking signs on either side of their mailbox, because again, I didn't have an ordinance to work on, but I don't want to go around the village and put no parking signs in everybody's yard. That doesn't seem like it's reasonable either. So I think this is something that maybe, again, if you wanted to get a feel, it's been on the agenda, it's been posted, but if you wanted to get a feel from residents on, you know, their perspective on this, might be worthwhile too.
It's just kind of sad that, I mean, usually it's common sense not to park in front of mailboxes, but now we're coming to the situation where we need to put something into place.
And I love the fact that both of you use the word common sense, but there really is no such
I
thing.
know.
So.
I know. So, I mean, honestly, I do like the wording of this. And I mean, if you want to put a motion in, I mean, or do you want to wait?
I can't imagine that people would be against this.
No.
Because everybody's got a mailbox.
Correct.
You know, we're going to frame it. You don't want people blocking your mailbox. And sometimes important things can still come through the mail.
Yeah.
And still do come through the mail. So I'll put a motion forth to utilize this verbiage, parking restrictions for post office mailboxes. It's,
And I'll second it.
okay.
If we both agree, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? None. So we'll push that up to the board.
Okay.
Ten, police department staffing and coverage. Once you're done.
No, that's fine. So we do have interviews set up for this Saturday for the candidates for the police officer position. We have, there'll be 5 total candidates. 4 will be at this Saturday, and then we have an additional candidate that just got back from some overseas service, and so we had to delay that interview. But we'll have 5 people that will interview. The police commission will decide which of them they'll put on an eligibility list that then I will be able to move forward with the hiring process for. So looking forward to getting to know those candidates better on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's this Saturday.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah, I look forward to see what you come up or what you find on our next meeting with that one too as well.
Great.
Yeah.
11, Police Department Capital and Equipment Planning.
So a couple of items on that. I met with the administrator to just discuss some issues related to the fact that we don't have an officer, that we won't be able to fill that officer position until January of next year when we potentially put somebody into the academy. So there's a decent amount of budgeted dollars for the police department under wages that potentially we can utilize for equipment or capital equipment in 2025 in order for it to not, become part of the general fund as under budget, and then it just goes into the unassigned funds.
Yeah.
So working with her, you all, I can't remember if both of you are on the board, but at some point since Gina got here, there were kind of 3 policies that were put into place. One is if you have a budgeted capital equipment item, department head can spend 5% more than what was budgeted in the event that there's some sort of, inflation or unexpected costs. That doesn't really apply here. If it's an area that was in a budgeted item, but you're running out of that line item funding, you can move from one line item to another up to $5,000 without board approval. And so I'm looking at, there's one item, or there's our simunitions that was budgeted for, but the costs are coming in higher than we expected, and so we may just utilize that policy in order to make that change, which would not have to come back before the board or the committee. But there's some other items that if it's more than it's more than $2,000 and it was not budgeted, we need to come back to the board. And so we've talked about the rifles for quite some time, and the quote finally came in today, actually, for the sergeant put together the quote. So we received the quote on the rifles. That's looking like it's going to be between $10,000 and $12,000, depending on what equipment we get with it. And so I will probably be coming to the committee in September with a request to just do a line item transition. So no additional dollars for the budget for the police department, not from the unassigned fund, but just to make that transition. So I think that's going to be a good option for us. We still have the office furniture from the old Muni Court that hasn't been released yet. As far as the office, it's still being utilized to kind of finalize some things with the municipal court. So once I know a date on that, we'll try to look at that, and that will probably be another, I don't know that will reach $5,000, but it'll probably be $2,000, another item that we'll bring before the committee. We've got a less lethal option that we're looking at. We've got less lethal shotguns that we've had. They're beanbag rounds that we've had for quite some time, but they're old shotguns. There's some new technology out there for launchers that you can utilize, not only beanbag, but rubber bullets. What's the last? OC rounds. So basically when they hit pepper spray or a pepper type ball comes out. So we're looking at some of those options. They kind of vary all over the place as far as a single shot versus a multi-shot, and then what the cost of the actual rounds and if there's training rounds. So we're doing some research on that. So that would be a potential capital or equipment item. And then I already talked a little bit about the simunitions rounds, which basically are a training platform where we would actually get the same firearm that we carry, but it's a dedicated where it only can be used with these paintball rounds that would be used in training. So if we could do a traffic stop type training, and then if the person inside starts to shoot with these paintball rounds at us, we then would be able to return fire and get a feel for timing and some of those kind of things. We've utilized it several times in the past, but it was always with our previous vendor for our firearms instruction, and now that he's not doing it for us, we kind of lost the option for that. So we're looking to purchase our own to be able to utilize that for some scenario training. We are meeting with the vendor on the rifles next week to take a look at those options, and so by September I should have some good numbers for you, as well as kind of what we're looking at moving forward. So got a lot of good movement since we're not doing much training anymore and getting ready to get into the budget process that's coming up. So that's what I have for you on that agenda item.
That equipment that you can do the training, the traffic stops and utilize paintballs, that sounds like outstanding. I've never fired a paintball myself, but to see where you're at,
Yeah, I
it's,
can tell you that in the past ones that we've done, back before the gun shop was where the old theater was. In the transition time, they allowed us to use the theater to do room clearing and building clearing and
Yep.
whatnot. And I remember peeking around a corner and I got hit on the wrist by a paintball because I exposed myself too much, and I will never forget that moment. And, you know, moving forward,
Yeah.
that's gonna change my activities when I'm doing those types of, you know, that type of work. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. And it can also, you know, I do some teaching on what we call force science, and it also really shows you how action beats reaction. And so, you know, really the speed of real life things versus kind of the slow training that sometimes we do. So it's definitely worthwhile for sure.
Nice.
good.
No, when you started talking about that as well, I was immediately thinking about, you know, the whole rifle situation where we're coming up with that. And then I know that if we do get the rifles, and we'd be selling the old rifles. So, I mean, then we'll be
Right.
funneling back in again.
And,
So
and we're
it's-
hoping that we've been through one cycle of rifles since I've been chief. We've been through 2 cycles of handguns, and oftentimes, you know, we get pretty decent buyback
Yep.
programs. And so even though I'm saying 10 to 12,000, that's without
Correct.
you know, the buyback
Yep.
portion of it. So
Yeah.
it kind of depends on what we're looking at for that. But
Yeah.
and our plan is to keep 2 of the old rifles. The Simunitions actually has a transition kit that you can put in that can transition one of our current rifles into a Simunitions rifle. And so then it'll be dedicated only for Simunitions. So we'll really be selling off or potentially do the buyback on 3 of the 5 that we have.
Okay.
So,
I like it. So we'll see that in September.
correct.
Any future agenda items?
The item that I will have for you is, we've been asked to start the 2026 fiscal year budget, and so I will bring forward to you at least a tentative police department ask for the 2026 fiscal year budget. In the past, this committee has basically looked at those and said, you know, we don't have any issues with them. It really doesn't get decided until it gets to the finance board portion of it, where things start to get kind of line itemed or moved around or, you know, reduced, with those types of things. But I'll bring you what I will call the wish list. But most often, you know, I don't go crazy with my requests. So it's going to be, you know, let's keep things status quo, or if there are some issues that we need. But I think with the idea that we can get some equipment out of this year's budget, there's probably not going to be a big ask in 2026. I don't believe off the top of my head that we need to replace any squads next year. So, you know, there shouldn't be anything huge coming out of the police department request.
Okay. Perfect. No, that sounds good. If there's anything else, John, I guess we're adjourn at 6:09. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Dusty.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Chair Dusty.